Welcome to Get the Let Out. I'm your host, Colin Letty. This is going to be about, I've been doing this online, on iTunes, SoundCloud, and recently it was signed by CLNS Media. So, this ain't my first rodeo, but this will be our first time, doing it on a video. So I'm really excited. I want to thank Andrew and everyone here at Pemmy Baker TV for having us. It's going to be a good show. And this is my co-host, Joey LeBlanc. Great to have you on, man.
Thanks for having me on.
Hey, it was early this morning. The snow was all over the place. I rolled out of bed, saw it was about 9:30. Knew Andrew wanted me here at 9 or 10 o'clock, and I had some mind to just roll back over. But I'm a warrior. Got in the mirror, got the hair ready, got the script going, and we're ready to go. So, basically the show is sports talk, guys being dudes, and we're ready to go, Joey.
Of course.
All right, so big thing happening today is March Madness. I couldn't tell you more than two teams that are in it, but I do have a favorite. Virginia, ACC team, smoked my Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets all season. So who do you got, man?
I mean, much like you, I don't know too many teams in college basketball, but if I'm going to go with one, it's got to be Duke, right? If you're going to pick one, you got to pick one that everyone else hates. So I'm going to hop on the bandwagon. Duke Blue Devils going all the way this year.
Grayson Allen, good guy, never no problems with him ever. But main portion of the show today will be the Patriots offseason or lack thereof, the moves they've made. Just to go over Dion Lewis and Malcolm Butler both signing huge contracts to go to the Tennessee Titans. Nate Solder to the Giants on a massive deal that nobody really saw coming. I guess that's just really the market. And fan favorite Danny Amendola heading to Miami, so we'll be seeing him twice a year still. But we did keep Nate Ebner, the special teams hero. So, take the good with the bad, but what do you make of this offseason so far?
Well, people forget, starting with Nate Ebner, special teams is 1/3 of the game. So you got to secure, those great special teams players, something Belichick does quite often. He's got, Matthew Slater, an all-pro every single year, seemingly, for special teams. Looking at the patch, you're sad about losing players like Amendola, like Nate Solder, but it does open the books now because you got some space to pick someone up. I want to see who they're going to go get because I feel like they're going to grab someone still. And there's still some big names out there in free agency that I would like to see the Pats go get. I know we talked a little before the show. You don't think Tyrann Mathieu would help the Patriots, but I want to see some kind of star on this defense that would make some big plays and hopefully not get injured midseason like Hightower did last year.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I think it was the pass rush was obviously their biggest problem, the defensive front. Guys who I knew was going to leave, Dion Lewis, Malcolm Butler, they were gone. Malcolm Butler was gone. I knew Malcolm Butler was gone first quarter into the Super Bowl. Nate Solder was one I didn't see. I didn't see the market for him to be that high. He is 30 years old, but I was looking. Nate Solder and Matt Light are the only two left tackles that Brady has started a season with. So, he's had others, but to start the season, they're the only two for the last 17 years. So that's pretty crazy in itself. And obviously, Danny was clutch in the playoffs, but, they have Kenny Britt. Edelman will be back. Who else? Hopefully Gronk. We'll see what's up with him. Chris Hogan, Brandon Cooks, all guys that under contract, and Danny Amendola was really just a luxury at some point. So obviously it was going to be tough to hold on to him, but he's easily the saddest. I'm sorry to see him go. He was just electric. I was at that AFC Championship game, and I'll tell you, they're not going to the Super Bowl without him, and they're probably not keeping it as close as they did in the Super Bowl without him as well. But the Malcolm Butler situation is really a sad one because when you look at the contract negotiations, they really weren't too far apart, mainly because Malcolm Butler, he signed for, I think, $65 million with $30 million guaranteed, and I think the Patriots are offering him. I think the Patriots are offering 61 with 25 guaranteed. I might have some of those numbers mixed up, but obviously, a guy you just couldn't hold on to.
Yeah, and that's going to do a lot with, I think, that Super Bowl. Why his decision was to go to Tennessee. He wasn't playing the Super Bowl. He was really upset that he wasn't really given a reason.
He's crying.
Yeah, you can't blame the guy for having that kind of emotion. He worked so hard to get to this point. The year before, no one knew who he was going into the Super Bowl, and he makes a big play, steps up for his team, and now, I mean, at least he's getting some money out of it in the end. But I think really he wanted to be the hero here in New England. He wanted to stay here in New England, but things did not go his way during the Super Bowl. He was hurt by it, and I think that's part of the reason why he also went to Tennessee, a team that made the playoffs last year, is only going to get better, as those young players develop on that team. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of move forward. They have two Patriots cornerbacks out on each side with Logan Ryan there as well.
Yeah, no, it's turning into New England South down there in Tennessee. I mean, Mike Vrabel's the coach. Obviously, Deion Lewis, Malcolm Butler, Logan Ryan. So all aboard, man. I guess, but Deion Lewis, I knew was going to be gone. They've never overpaid for running backs because they always kind of have that three-man carousel. You remember with Corey Dillon, Kevin Falk, Patrick Pass. It was kind of just who fit the down and distance and who was the best for the job. So I knew he was going to get paid, especially after the year he had. Over 1,000 yards rushing, big time in the passing game. They still have James White. Hey, they got Brandon Bolden. And they just signed, I believe, Gillislee, or it could have been Burkhead.
Burkhead, I think, 4 years or something crazy.
4 years. I mean, we'll see what happens with Gillislee, but I want to talk more about Butler not playing in the Super Bowl because to me, I hear it all the time. It's in Bill we trust. How can you go against Bill? And to me, it's like Bill is the greatest coach maybe in any sport ever. I don't even think it's a maybe. I think it is, but. Is he not allowed to make like a bad decision? Is that like not okay for Bill to make? Like, is it that crazy to think that, Bill Belichick made a poor decision there?
I don't know. I feel like it was a good. It's only a poor decision when it doesn't work out, right? So it's easy to say now, but if Rowe comes up with a huge pick six in that game and the Pats trip out to an early lead, well then no one's really talking about Butler sitting there talking about get Butler out of town. The Pats don't need him. Gilmore would be the next number one cornerback on the team, right?
No, I disagree because I get maybe not starting out the game, and whoever they had, Abadamusi and Richards, if they were doing their thing in the game, you could say, okay, we didn't really need Malcolm Butler, but you have the entire game where Malcolm Butler is just sitting there, and the secondary is just getting torched, especially in the run game, and Malcolm Butler plays 97% of the snaps all season. At what point does Bill say, okay, this was a bad decision. I should put Malcolm Butler back in? And he just never did it. It was a bad decision. They lost the game. I think big part was, I don't think it was just because of that, but, I would have loved to see Malcolm Butler in that game. I think in-game decision, that was a bad. If you want to not start him, I understand if there's something you see, but once you see that go out the window, you put your guy back in, especially a guy that helps you win 2 Super Bowls, has been there, and has played, again, 97% of the snaps all season.
And I like what you said there. A lot of times coaches don't start a guy to send a message to him in the game, and sometimes you see him worked in later in the game. But Bill, of course, he's got this kind of the way he holds himself. He's not gonna give in to a player, and it's just his policy with the team where he's gonna put his system above the wants of the players. And he didn't care that Butler wasn't feeling very happy about not being in the game, but. I do agree with you. I think he was wrong not to put him in later in the game. It definitely did not help their case, and I don't think Nick Foles is going to throw for quite as many yards as he did with Malcolm Butler out on that field.
Well, they made Nick Foles look like Joe Montana. He 3 touchdowns. He caught one. I mean, it was crazy. I really couldn't believe it, and maybe I didn't give them as much credit as I should have because they were a well-oiled machine. But, I mean, were the Patriots just not as good? That I think maybe they just didn't show up. Pat's defense just doesn't show up. Lose the Super Bowl, now I had to deal with. I can't even watch the last Tom vs. Time. I can't even bring myself to watch it because I just love seeing the guy win. But again, dumb decision not to play Malcolm. And moving on, we're 2 weeks away from the Red Sox opening up the season. They've had a pretty good spring. We've seen some guys, Sam Travis and Blake Swihart, make a run for the opening day roster, but it's going to be tough because this is really the same exact roster as we've seen before from last year. In 93 win team won the AL East. New manager, Alex Cora. However, they did add a JD Martinez. The Red Sox were last year in home runs. There's a guy who's hit 40 plus. So hopefully we get some power there.
Yeah, hopefully he can contribute some to the offense on this team because they desperately need it. Of course, Red Sox always going to be compared to the New York Yankees, who stacked up in this offseason. They're going to be hitting bombs left and right. So you can't really expect the Red Sox to win games by scoring a lot of runs. They're going to have to win it with defense, with pitching. And I do believe this team's going to be better than they were last year. Sticking with the same squad sometimes can help you with development, help you with chemistry with the team. All these guys, they've been together, they know how to play together, and they're only going to get better as a team as time goes on. And who knows, maybe this new manager is going to be able to kick these guys in gear even more than John Farrell did.
Yeah, I think John Farrell just lost the clubhouse at some point, especially with the David Price, Dennis Eckersley situation. Dustin Pedroia was kind of a diva all season long, and they had that kind of David Ortiz hangover from the year before. And I think if they can get back to the 2016, you saw Mookie Betts, Jackie Bradley, Xander Bogaerts all take steps back. Hanley Ramirez had another down year. You'll probably see him play a lot more first base this year. They like to keep him engaged. Mitch Moreland's once they signed JD Martinez, Mitch Moreland's at bats went out the window, so he'll be probably coming off the bench. But I was looking at something. JD Martinez was actually at Fenway for his 19th birthday. I saw an old picture today. So that maybe a little Illuminati right there. So I don't know. It's a good omen.
Maybe it's a good sign. And if he's a little bit of a fan, maybe he'll feel a little bit better about playing for the Red Sox. Put a little extra effort out there.
Yeah, and also with the pitching staff on paper should be number one: Chris Sale, Rick Porcello, David Price, Eduardo Rodriguez, and Stephen Wright's in the mix. And on paper, there's all-stars all across the board. And Eduardo Rodriguez, 24-year-old guy, done a lot of work for them. So what do you make of them in the pitching staff? Because obviously they just didn't show up in the playoffs, but room for improvement.
Yeah, I think you have, of course, Price, Porcello, Sale. Those big three right there. If you can have Rodriguez step up and just have some really quality starts this year, that's going to be a solid pitching staff. That's 4 pitchers you can throw out possibly in the playoffs. You can get a lot of innings out of those guys. You can really cause opposing lineups some trouble. If Erod can step up this year, I think that he can do it. Injuries are a concern with me. He's been on and off the injury report since he's been on the Red Sox. Hopefully he can stay healthy this year. Hopefully he pitches well. And I think that if you can get a big 4 kind of pitching rotation with the starters, this is going to be a really tough team coming down the stretch.
It will. And, I feel bad for John Farrell because everyone wants to talk about the last 2 playoffs. He's 1-6, losing in the divisional round both times. Both the teams that went to the World Series, and the Astros actually won the World Series. But if you look at I don't think a pitcher got out of the 4th inning in either of those series. Also, bats didn't show up. I think they're averaging around 2 runs a game. So, I always never had a big problem with John Farrell. Obviously, his in-game managing wasn't perfect. Stealing bases, he wasn't big on that. And then also, just sending guys to home plate and getting thrown out time and time again. It worked out sometimes because they were, I think, top 5 in the AL in runs scored, but they also got thrown out more than anyone, and it was also situationally you're down by 1 and then you send them. It's different than when you're up and you can send them, and if you don't make it, it's not a big deal. But there was just some times where it was just a terrible decision. Hopefully Alex Corey's coming off a World Series win of his own as the bench coach of the Houston Astros. Hopefully he can bring some life into this team.
Yeah, it would be nice to see some smarter decisions on the base pass, but if you have a mentality like that, attacking mentality, I think you got to stick with it. You can't get away from what you know, and I like to see that they stuck with it all year. And it worked for them in some cases. Like you said, they were, was it top 5 or something in steals?
Or runs, sorry.
Or runs in the season. Yeah, explosive offense with a team that really didn't have a heck of a lot of power up and down the lineup. So they were opportunistic at times, and they had to be. And I think they're going to have to be opportunistic this year as well. But you got to be careful on the base paths. You can't get caught out because, once it comes down to the playoffs, playing against teams like the Astros, Yankees, they're going to make you pay if you're getting thrown out on the base paths.
Yeah, and I think I think people were kind of panicking with the Red Sox offseason this year because the Yankees were making so many moves. Obviously the Stanton deal was huge, but I mean, I love it. I love it because it's just going to revitalize that rivalry. I think they're both young teams. Now they're young teams with experience. Obviously, the Yankees have more. They're a little more flashy. They have the power. Big lights in New York. So people want to hop on their train. But I'm really excited to see what this Red Sox team can do. Moving forward, last night, Celtics, tough loss in double overtime, second straight loss. They lost to the Pacers by 2 the other night, and they are getting bitten by the injury bug, Joey. Last night, no Kyrie, no Smart, no Tice, no Hayward, no Horford, no Jaylen Brown. I mean, they played with a 9-man rotation. Yabusele was starting in the game. So, I mean, obviously, to see them fight is awesome. But, again, no moral victories in basketball. They do, I think there's about 14 games left in the season, and they do have I think they're up 5 games above the Cavaliers for the second spot in the East. Not a bad one to have. So what do you make of this shorthanded Celtics team right now?
I mean, at times last night, I thought Shane Larkin looked good. I thought that they were playing well. Abdel Nader came in, made a 3, and I was, up and yelling. But this team is nothing without those star players. Bradley Beal was by far the best player on the court last night. Even at times when he was crying on the ground, trying to get calls. Star players can do that from time to time, but this Celtics team, they kind of blew it a little bit last night. They fought till the end, but they just didn't have it. You never really expected them to win. Once it got to overtime, I felt that the Wizards were going to win that game outright. I was amazed when they pushed it to the second overtime. Even it was a tough time. They don't have the scoring option without Kyrie out there, and they need him back. They need Jaylen Brown back as well too.
Yeah, I thought Tatum absolutely stepped up though last night. Couldn't hit the freaking free throw, but obviously that was a big time play, getting the N1, which forced the double overtime. So, obviously you take the good with the bad, but I think they're in a little bit of trouble right now if they can't get. I think Tice is out for the year, Hayward is out for the year, Horford's been sick. Hopefully Jaylen Brown can pass his concussion protocol, and Smart might have a broken wrist, so he might be done too. He's kind of the anchor on the defense.
Scary Terry though.
Scary Terry. I mean, he's been phenomenal, and you might see him. He might be too good for the Celtics to wind up keeping. I think he's averaging like 15 points a game his last 17 games off the bench. He was a guy when he came into the league. I was like, ho hum, not gonna do it. He's just another mid first round pick. Stayed a couple years in college, not great. So, I never put too much stock into him, and to see him grow this year has been phenomenal because I don't think he's had that opportunity. Last year there was a lot of scoring. This year it's more spread out, especially with Baines, Tatum, Brown, all of them kind of getting into their own rhythm here. So I like the direction they're going in, but as far as this year, I think conference championship appearance is the ceiling. I still think I don't doubt the Cleveland Cavaliers for a second. The playoff LeBron is an unstoppable force.
Yeah, I saw an amazing little graphic on Instagram, and it was like the percentages to win the NBA title, and the Cavaliers had like 1%, and I was like, there's no way. Yeah, the Celtics were like a point, or like a 4% or a 0.4. It was stupid.
Golden State's gonna win.
Of course, yeah. It was
the
Rockets to Golden State. Rockets probably gonna blow it. I mean, what if Chris Paul and James Harden won? I mean, they're great scorers, and they put up awesome numbers, but they haven't won really anything yet. The Celtics. I do agree with you that conference championship will be a tough game for them. I don't think that they're going to be able to beat the Cavaliers. I would like to see them play the Raptors, who I think could get there, and that would be an interesting series. I think the Celtics could possibly win that series. I wouldn't pick them to win, but I think they have a better chance against the Raptors than the Cavaliers.
Yeah, I mean, I think the East, it's never been as competitive in the last 3-4 years as it is now. I mean, even teams like Indiana. Philadelphia is a playoff team now. So 1 through 8, it's really a tough division. I still think the West is their two top teams are much better than the East two top teams. I mean, the Rockets have been unbelievable this year, and I never thought that anybody would be able to touch the Golden State Warriors, but I mean, here they are. James Harden's playing ridiculous. They have a good bench. Gerald Green. They have Eric Gordon, Joe Johnson. So, and obviously Chris Paul has been huge. I think they're like something crazy. I think they only have like 5 or so losses with when Chris Paul and James Harden's on the court. But I do hate that KD is on the Warriors. He just absolutely ruined the league. Same thing with LeBron, a team that just didn't need him, and now they're just going to win. And he's going to stay there for a really long time. He loves the area, and me personally, last night. So big intramural basketball championship last night. We win by 30. We're the Golden State Warriors of that league. An interesting note is in the beginning of the year, I had my own team. We were called like Letty's Revenge Tour. 4 games into the season, things weren't looking too hot, Joey, and I had to jump ships to another team that were highly favored to win. And I feel bad. I had to ditch my squad, but I only count rings, so it was worth it for me. But again, with the Warriors, they don't need KD. They can win without him. They won 73 games without him. So, what do you think? What do you think about that?
I mean, interesting fact about the Warriors. I was reading an article the other day, and it was like teams that LeBron might go to. And guess what team was on the list?
If he goes to Golden State Warriors, I won't watch basketball until he's either off the team or he retires. So, for my sake, and I think everyone's sake, I hope he doesn't go there. I don't think LeBron goes. If he goes anywhere, it's not going to be anywhere in the West where it's just the competition level is just a little bit higher. It's a little bit harder to get to the finals because once LeBron's in the finals, he always has a chance. You know what I mean? Like even last year, it was like it was 5 games, but he's been to 7 straight, which I think is right on par with Brady going to like 10 straight AFC Championship games, and Brady being to 8 championships himself. But LeBron, just stay in Cleveland, man. You know what I mean? I liked LeBron when he was on Cleveland. I hated him when he left. When he came back, I was like, all right, this guy has some dignity left. So I hope he stays there.
I hope he stays there as well, but you never really know with him. No one expected, the Miami, announcement that came out of, nowhere. It was awesome. I mean, secretly, I kind of hope he moves so that I could have a little more to talk about, but him on the Warriors might sway things a little bit in the Warriors' way even more.
Sway things. They won't lose a game if LeBron's on the team. They won't lose a game. I'll say that right now. They went 73-9 without KD or LeBron, and they're the same exact team now. And if you add them, it's game over. No one's ever going to win an NBA basketball game again. But I'm looking at this little time clock over here. I think that's all I got, Joey. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're running out of time here. It's a pretty good job today.
Yeah, man. I mean, everyone runs out of ammo eventually. But I want to thank everybody at Penny Baker TV for hosting this. Obviously, you can follow me at Leds12. You can follow Joey at his ridiculous Twitter name at Joey_the_Crusher. I don't know the origin of that, but
yeah, it's a long story.
That was like you made that in 8th grade, right?
Yeah, it was like an email I got when I was like little.
All right.
And then it was followed.
All right. Now I'll let you pass on that.
Yeah.
You can also see us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and on the CLNS Media website. My name is Colin Letty. It was great having here. It was great having our first show here. I want to thank Andrew and everyone here. It's been a really great opportunity with the practicum, and we'll have more shows. And just remember, get the let out.